Hello, welcome everyone to CiviCRM Secrets for Drupalers. I'm David Snopek, one of the co-founders of MyDropWizard and a longtime Drupaler. Who are you guys?
I'm Elliot. I'm also a longtime Drupaler. Not on the level of David, but I try to make my way through this stuff. And I'm going to be given the demo later. And most of my experience with email, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit. Sorry to unbury the lead, but I have experience with large email sending systems. So I'm hopefully will comment on that a little bit.
And hi, I'm Will Long. I recently joined up with Dave and Elliot here at MyDropWizard, and I kick it back to Dave now to talk about the project we've been working on.
Cool, thanks guys. So what are we going to be talking about in this video today?
Do I get to do that?
Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, awesome. So we have this. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm very excited about our project that we are calling Round Earth, and it is a mashup of Drupal 8 and CiviCRM, and it's pretty awesome. And you'll get to see just a little taste of that in the demo later.
Cool. And so we're all Drupalers, so we all know what Drupal 8 is, but what is CiviCRM?
Do I have to take that too?
I can take that one. So CiviCRM is a CRM tool. So generally, contact relationship management. I think they actually go for constituent relationship management in CiviCRM's acronym because it's geared towards nonprofits. It's for tracking contacts and the interactions you have with those contacts, grouping them, putting custom fields on them. And also, by extension, sending emails to them, and that sort of thing. Where CiviCRM's sort of defining characteristic is that it's open source and geared towards nonprofits as opposed to, sales organizations or anything else that could potentially use a CiviCRM or use a CRM. So
why would you not use Drupal for that? Just use Drupal by itself. Just use Drupal by itself. What do you need CiviCRM for?
I think us as Drupal developers, we have used Drupal for that in our Drupal careers. I know I've done some CRM projects. I know that Will, you have some experience doing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a builder of things. I like to build things, like to build my own things. A little skeptical when it comes to just bringing in this whole big piece of software, especially a big one like this that I don't really know a lot about. But working with CiviCRM, it's a great way to just manage the contacts for your organization, do whatever interactions you're doing with them, collect a little money from them if you can. And then the big selling point of CiviCRM is that it's it works across a lot of different CMSs, so it's not just a Drupal thing. So there's a lot of knowledge out there in the community about just making CiviCRM work with the internals of it and the functionality of it. So it's not just a Drupal thing, but you have some support from all sorts of different outside of Drupal communities.
Yeah, the CiviCRM community is super interesting. Like it's not that big when you compare it to the Drupal community. There's only some 10,000 or so CiviCRM installations out there, but it's like way bigger than any Drupal CRM project. So like, there's definitely not 10,000 Red Hen installations or CRM Core or any of the Drupal-based solutions. So even though it's much smaller than Drupal, it's pretty big in its own space.
Sure, and not to send anybody away from Drupal, but if your organization decided to go a different way at some point, all your Civi stuff could go with you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of people going, from CiviCRM WordPress to CiviCRM Drupal or vice versa. Or CiviCRM also works in Joomla and Backdrop and a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about email. And the example we're going to be looking at is the Drupal 414 meetup group, which is our sort of like local Wisconsin Drupal monthly meetup group. And to sort of frame the problem that we're looking at, as a meetup group, you'll have the members of your meetup you want to keep in your contacts. You'll maybe have potential sponsors you want to keep in your contacts. You'll have maybe people you're trying to get to come to the meetup but haven't come yet, like sort of like leads that you have in there. And maybe you want to send an email newsletter to one of those groups, or maybe to everyone. And Drupal has some email functionality. What has been your guys' experience with sending email newsletters from Drupal?
Yeah, so I'll start. Will. So the biggest problem with email, and I think maybe Will probably go a little deeper on this, is deliverability. So aside from the deliverability issue, the Drupal solutions are tend to be, I think, coming from more of a developer standpoint, more of a technical standpoint. Like, obviously you can send emails and you can craft whatever kind of emails you want, but the interface for that has always seemed a little bit complex and probably a little off-putting to some of the constituents that we're talking about, like nonprofits.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the crafting of the email content is probably the biggest difficulty. In my experience, it's been a very, very custom and time-consuming thing where it takes a lot of time to get an email template, per se, that's cross-client compatible, that looks right when people load it on their phone or their Hotmail browser and whatever. But that type of stuff just takes a long time to go through. And there's really not a whole lot of Drupal tools in terms of just creating and dispatching out the high-quality newsletters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the simple news module that's been around for a long time, to send email newsletters directly from Drupal. A super common solution is to just have Drupal not be involved in that part of the process. Like if you're going to do an integration with MailChimp or an integration with Constant Contact, so now you're syncing your contacts and groups from Drupal over to MailChimp, and then you're going into MailChimp and in there creating the email, since it's good at creating nice looking emails that will work in different clients.
Yeah, and that stuff's fine, except I think you run into some issues where maybe somebody said they didn't want to have an email, and then you're resyncing it over. I think you can run into some issues with that, with just, the typical like syncing problems. And this is more like an export and an import, usually kind of manual in terms of MailChimp or Constant Contact, things like that.
Yeah, it just adds to the complexity.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that sync works well. You're going to be adjusting the way you're doing stuff on the Drupal end to match the MailChimp end, and vice versa. So if you could do it all in Drupal in a way that was usable, and the result was good for the people viewing the emails, that definitely would be superior theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have a good solution on how we can send custom crafted emails from Drupal?
So we're going to be talking about CiviCRM and its integration with Mosaico. Mosaico is like a open source web browser like email editor tool. So it's kind of like the front end component in MailChimp, where you're actually like moving the blocks around and putting in the content for your email. And CiviCRM has an extension to allow you to use that to create mailings in CiviCRM. And something actually that maybe would be a topic for a whole other video, but CiviCRM's taken this kind of approach where rather than making new features directly in core, anything that's kind of like big, world-changing, cool new features in CiviCRM are being done in extensions. So in CiviCRM core, there's the ability to send emails. You basically get like a CK editor WYSIWYG field, which is not a great way to write emails. And then there's this extension, which is kind of like not part of core, but the way that CiviCRM as a community is going, which adds Mosaico, which is super cool. And we are going to do a quick demo of that.
Okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you see that.
It's up.
Cool. So this probably looks familiar to most people who use Drupal. So this is Drupal 8. This is our Drupal 414. Obviously, we're in Wisconsin. I still don't know who made that little monstrosity with the cheese on top of it, but but anyway, I digress. So this is just right now we're using this mostly as a demo site, but this I fully intend to make this into a real world site to help our Drupal 414 members know about our events and how they can sponsor the group and all sorts of things like that. So the real magic here is this little button that says CiviCRM up on the top. And so that kind of transforms Drupal into, a CiviCRM backend. It adds this additional toolbar at the top that has some CiviCRM functions. And just 10,000 foot view. The real core of CiviCRM is contacts. So, for instance, I'm in here, so I'm just going to do a quick search for me, and then so it has very robust search, and so then you have a whole contact system here. So we have all the regular contact information, and you can edit it as you need to. And I'm going to just go to this edit view here. So I have all this contact information that's all built in. Some address information if they need multiple addresses. But the main thing that has to do with what we're talking about today is this communication preferences. And one thing I forgot to kind of mention is there's some demographic information that you potentially could use for your lists too. So if you wanted to send it to everybody who has a birthday in December, you could do that.
Yeah, Civi's got a functionality called Smart Groups, essentially like a contact search based on criteria. So you can have groups that they're not static groups that people get added in and out of, but it's essentially like a search result that is a group.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can also use kind of freeform tags, and you can use groups. And as you see, I'm a member of the newsletter group. So in here, there's some privacy things. So I could say I do not ever want to receive emails. I don't want to receive bulk emails, or I really only want email. And I can even go so far as to select my preferred language. If you're in a multi-language kind of environment, and you need to be able to accommodate for that. So then, and stop me if I miss anything, guys, but I'm going to jump over to mailings, and I'm just going to create a new mailing. And so this is what we were kind of alluding to. This is super powerful and super simple. So if you're used to something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, you can probably figure out what's going on right here. So we have a mailing name, and we're going to call this demo newsletter. We can select our from address. So if you have multiple senders or even like multiple organizations that you're kind of utilizing the same interface for, you could potentially do that. Here's kind of the power. We have some groups, and I'm going to select the newsletter group here that you saw that I'm a member of, and it kind of tells us we have about 3 recipients on that. And so then finally we have the subject line, which if you send newsletters or bulk emails of any kind, that's something that people pain over a lot. So I'm just going to call this whatever, test email. But the real power here is we can include these tokens, and this allows us to query that whole repository of your constituent information. So all the contact information, we have gender, we have first name. So if I want to say hello, first name, it's as simple as that. So then I'm just going to go. We also have this draft capability, so you can start things and come back to it later, which is super awesome. So I'm going to just continue, and here's where things get even more super awesome. This is sort of the Mosaico system that David was talking about before. And you have the ability to have some templates. You could have some branded templates in here as kind of jumping off points. And so I'm just going to select this one that's sort of the default. And one thing that a couple little interface challenges that maybe we'll have to fix or just need to be considered if you're using this stuff now is Drupal kind of gets in the way of some of the features of this screen. So this stuff is cutting edge, so that hasn't really been completely taken care of yet. So this little manage button, if you click that, it'll reveal this other stuff here. And one thing that came up before when we were going through a test demo is there's a button here that allows you to preview at different sizes. And if your screen is too small, it goes away. So that's a little gotcha that I fully think somebody could run into. If you're working on a newsletter, I don't think it's uncommon for people to have two windows up and maybe have their composition window a little smaller than full screen. So jump in if you guys have anything to add on that.
Well, let's drop some blocks in there.
Yeah, I know. I'm just anxious to do that. So so what's really cool, and I don't know. I'm not the world's best designer by any stretch of the imagination. So, but you see these blocks, and just having these things that are in this right here, this is probably 90% of what any organization really ever needs. So I'm just gonna grab a block and drop it in there. And so you see that there's an image placeholder. There's some text here, and all this stuff is super clickable, super easy to change. So there's kind of the WYSIWYG stuff that we tend to see, but the really obvious stuff. So if I just want to delete that text out and say, this is a cool demo of our newsletter.
Will and I earlier were debating whether what to call Mosaico, and we sort of settled on like WYSIWYG for emails. The other option was panels for emails, but we thought, not all Drupalers love panels.
Yeah.
The fact that you can edit all this stuff inline and see it in real time, and then if you click that preview button, you can also see as you're editing it how it would look in a phone.
This button right here that we couldn't find before. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, that live preview button. No, just hit it.
Oh, okay.
And then right now it's on the mobile phone version. So as you're editing it over here, you can see on the right like what it would look at a mobile phone dimension. Yeah, there's also desktop, or I don't know how useful that is because you're using it on desktop, but then like the tablet size.
Yep. Well, I think it could be useful if you shrink your window up like I did. Maybe you do want to see what it looks like full size. So I think it's very very cool and powerful. I mean, I can't even imagine the work that went into it, but it's just a awesome tool. So when I'm editing text here, I can do the normal WYSIWYG things. I can change colors even if I wanted to. But the real power of using this in your CRM is you can include tokens. And so then we have all these tokens. So if I wanted to say, hi, and it's still red and bold, but whatever. Hi, first name. Are you impressed that I know your name?
Yeah, and theoretically, if you're using your CRM a lot, you could have a lot of different information about them. Have they donated before? Did they attend an event recently? If you're doing all of your events and RSVPs and all of that stuff through there. So yeah, from like a marketing perspective, or getting people to join your organization, or getting people to donate, like you can do some pretty powerful things.
Yeah, I mean, so just think about that in terms of like our Drupal 414, like just shooting out an email of anyone who hasn't attended in the last 6 months. And just say, hey, you still want to be involved? Are you interested in giving a presentation? Right.
You could track, who's presented, or who's said they're interested in presenting, or when did they last present? So, if you're trying to not have the same, a couple people present every month.
And for that right now we use meetup.com, which I think is a good tool, and it's great for advertising the event and getting in front of people that wouldn't otherwise know about it. But like this stuff, this level of integration with all the users, I mean, Meetup is meant for more general types of things. We can tailor this right to our specific needs. So I just think it's incredible. So the image thing is just as easy as the text. So if I want to just throw an image in there, it does what you'd expect. It does the right thing. Just kind of throws it into the template and resizes it to what you'd expect based on kind of the placeholders there. And I can I can go in and I can change my title right here. This guy is working hard. And of course, if you're trying to drive traffic to a particular thing, you can add links, all the stuff you'd expect. So then let's just go back to our blocks. And if I wanted to just drop in another block, another, giant banner image, theoretically, did I not drop it?
To drop it a little high. This is something I've noticed when.
Wow, I didn't have that problem before, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it only happens at the bottom of the.
Oh, okay. So I probably added it at the top. That's interesting. I think backwards from everybody. Yeah, and then let's just add another image here, and just whatever. And boom, like some crazy images there, but like boom, we have a really good looking email already. And
probably something a lot of organizations care about too is branding it a little bit, making it match their colors, because this template's just grays and stuff. But that's also super simple in Mosaico with this little style tab that I'm hoping Elliot's going to show.
Yeah. So if I go to the title there and I go to the style, I haven't played with this, so I'm gonna demo live, which is probably scary. But let's say we want to change our titles to be blue. That's maybe not much of a change. Let's change
let's do something big. Let's change the background color to something crazy.
Or so this background. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's make it purple. Boom.
Yeah. So the if you wanted to have something super custom and super branded to your organization, you'd have to create another one of those like Mosaico templates. But even with just this default one, if you're just worried about colors and images and stuff, like it's more than enough to get that done. And it's also, been tested on lots of different devices and stuff. Whereas if you make your own custom template, you have to tackle that challenge yourself. But.
Yeah, and it just works across, you can do the preview with devices. And I mean, very quickly, we didn't have any, good information to really share specific to our group right here. But I think it's just incredible. So now, and this is a part of, especially if you have a lot of people that you send emails to and you don't want to make mistakes. Testing emails is huge. So I can send it to our, if we had a test group, we don't have one in here, but if I just, send it to our newsletter group, I can immediately just send a test and it says, I'm going to send it to these 3 people and boom, it's going to send those emails off as a test. I can review those with my team, get approvals if I need things like that. And then we can go on and we can send it. I don't know. Is there anything else that we wanted to see in here?
I think that about covers it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I think it's time to send it.
Okay, so now I just close it. I'm back at our design screen, and again, I could just save it off as a draft if I want to come back to it later. But I'm going to hit continue, and then this is we have some advanced things, like if we wanted to attach a PDF, and there's lots of other options there too. But scheduling. Like this is huge. Sometimes people want to send emails so that they show up first thing on Monday morning, but they don't want to work on it on Sunday night. So you can schedule it. So if we want to send it, Monday morning, at 6 a.m., something like that. It's as easy as that. And we can just hit submit the mailing. And here's a list of all the mailings we sent. So another powerful feature is once you'd went through the work of creating an email, you could potentially reuse it. And this shows the kind of the status of what's going on here. So here we have some scheduled emails, and it says when it starts and when it completed, which I think is just super powerful and super great for sharing knowledge within your organization. So if there's an email that you already sent out and you want to pass it on to a volunteer, you can just give them a quick 10-minute overview of how this stuff works, and they can just go reuse an email and send it off.
And as an advantage over in integration, if your volunteers are already in your CiviCRM recording, whatever they're recording, be that who showed up at an event or contributions or any of that stuff, it's just another tab in CiviCRM to go then create mailings. You don't have to say, okay, now here's the MailChimp password, here's how you get in there. And it basically does all of the the same things that you would expect from a MailChimp, it'll record opens, it'll record clicks, it'll record bounces and take care of all of that stuff. So.
Yeah, and to kind of go full circle on that, the power of having this CRM, which is open source, is obviously, new features can get added. You can get in, you can add your own features, but the integrations that are already done with Drupal and that we're continuing to work on, just the power of this platform is just, it's mind-boggling, the types of things that could be accomplished by integrating all this stuff. So I just get kind of excited about the whole integration part.
Cool. So thanks for the demo.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other final thoughts about why this is so exciting from a Drupal perspective?
I'm always excited about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, having tried to do this sort of thing in Drupal, and that maybe not having gone as well as hoped, looking at this through those kind of eyes.
Well, I mean, and so I don't know what everyone's experiences are, even with you guys, but when I think about organizations that I've used Drupal with in the past, they are almost always using something else. So maybe that's Outlook, maybe that's maybe they're using MailChimp as sort of an ad hoc CRM, but they're always using something else, and so you don't have the opportunities to take advantage of the integrations because it's always floating out somewhere else. So like just the possibilities are kind of endless on this. So
cool. Any closing thoughts before we get back to work?
Well, I don't know. Are we going to do more of these?
I hope so. So I guess we didn't talk too much about like the premise of this video series. There's almost one edition, so it's not quite a series yet. But the CiviCRM community is relatively small compared to the Drupal community, but there's obvious connections there. I think there's so many cool things going on in CiviCRM that Drupal people don't know about, and I think it would really help for them to know about, like in case they come across a client or a project or something where this could be useful. Like if you're a Drupaler who's had these painful mail integration or painful custom mail things in Drupal, and you come across an organization and they have that need, you could think, maybe CiviCRM would work. Because I don't think Drupalers know there's this super cool email functionality that they could potentially take advantage of.
Among other things. Yeah, we didn't touch on events or anything like that.
Yeah. So we're hoping to do more of these. We can talk about events. We can talk about some developer-y cool things too. The API Explorer in CiviCRM is super cool. In Drupal, API first initiative and all that stuff is the hot new thing right now. But CiviCRM's already done that, and people don't know that it's there. It's super cool. So yeah, we're hoping to come back and do a couple more of these. If you're interested in hearing about them when they come out, please subscribe to our blog at mydropwizard.com/blog. Anything I'm missing?
No. I think it's great, and one thing is I always like to get comments from people who watch my stuff or listen to things that I go over, because inevitably you're going to come across something that we didn't think to cover, or you're going to come across a problem that we didn't that didn't show up in our demo. So please ask questions, and I would love to. I always react better to questions than trying to figure out what people are going to need and try to give a demo of that. So if you have a real world example that we can kind of go through and show how you do something, I think that would be great.
Please leave comments.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone. Thanks Will and Elliot for doing this discussion, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks.
Yeah, take care.